Thinking about leaving your soul-sucking 9 to 5 job? One of the biggest struggles I see people, especially as women, face is the idea of having that safety net, that enticing perks and benefits, and listening to that head trash of what will people think if I leave. I totally get it, and I've been where you are. That's why I created a free guide to help you if you're thinking about putting in that notice. It's called Unlocking Your Exit Plan. Discover 5 things you need to do before leaving your 9 to 5. This guide is filled with worksheets and steps so you will have hand holding along the way. You can download your copy in the link in the show notes, and again, it's totally free. Now back to today's episode. Hey there, let's face it. Today's internet world is so saturated and everyone is fighting for that number one spot to be visible. It is no longer about running ads and having thousands of people on your email list. It is about building relationships and networking with others to grow your business and become visible. Hi, my name is Candace. I'm a podcast launch strategist and I help service-based business owners develop and deliver their message to the world by using platforms like podcasting and bringing valuable content to those who need to hear what they have to say. Welcome to the Hello C.S. Dorsey podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Hello C.S. Dorsey podcast. I have Andrea Chase here with ProCabby. I'm so excited. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Candace. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So could you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Sure thing. So my name is Andrea Chase, and I'm actually an entrepreneur from Ottawa, Canada. And I kind of have had my hand in some different things over the past few years, but my latest venture is my startup ProCabby, like you mentioned. And in short, we are a mobile technology app to help professional drivers get some skin back in the game and help them earn extra income. And when I say professional drivers, I mean professional taxi drivers, or now we've also welcomed professional limo drivers as well. So so it's a free platform for them to use, and it's meant to be used with all of their other sources of revenue because they aren't earning enough income. And on the passenger side, it's great because it's a more safe, secure option when you want to get that ride on demand. Works really similar to ride sharing, but you know that you're always getting a professional driver who's undergone training, testing, in a lot of cases, criminal background checks and drug testing.
It's really good because it's very important. You know, given the previous, I don't know what's going on now, I hear about it too much, but a lot of the Uber incidents where a lot of, drivers have gone off the deep end or just gone off somewhere else, So that's really good that people will feel a sense of safety when they're riding. So I like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, that's one of our biggest, mandates is the safety, transparency, and security piece, as well as fair wages, which is a huge thing for us. So our profit margin, respectfully speaking, is the highest favoring the drivers that I've seen so far. Prove me wrong, somebody out there, but so far I haven't seen one that favors the drivers as much as ours does. And it is an algorithm-based piece of our software, but in essence, the drivers earn a minimum profit of 92.9% off of all credit card transactions they get through the app. And we actually now have a cash feature as well. And in those cases, the drivers earn 100% profit from the fare. So in those cases, ProCabby, from a business standpoint, earns nothing. And, I've been questioned about that, but we are extremely driver-centric. So we do have a business model that is to earn revenue, but we have a huge social impact component to ProCabby. And that's one of the ways that we are trying to give back to the drivers and their families.
That's really good. That's awesome. So I know the question is going to come up and a lot of people are going to be like, well, where are you guys based at? Like, where are your drivers are now? I know you have some locations. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So like I said, we're based out of Ottawa, Canada. but we actually have a trickling of drivers. So our focus, of course, since the beginning when we launched and went live in the stores was to get a solid pool of drivers, right? Because there is competition out there. Sure, we can agree. I've been in that case before where I go to use an app, and if it, respectfully, if it doesn't work, I may never use the app again. So for me, one of my priorities has been to build up our pool of drivers. So I can't list them all off the top of my head, but if you go to ProCabby.com, on the homepage of our website, you'll see a list of all of the cities where ProCabby is available in for download. Does that mean we have our pool of drivers in each of those cities filled? No, not yet. But if we have it on there, it means we have some drivers there. So, California is on our radar next, right? But, we have some new drivers in Texas, New York, Ottawa, Toronto, Calgary, and most recently, before Texas, was Barcelona, Spain. So one silver lining, this sort of I'm segueing into this, I hope that's okay, was during COVID, obviously our industry was super hard hit. Anything to do with transportation, travel, that's just, of course, an understatement. But we took that as sort of an opportunity to say, okay, guys, now drivers, this is the time. Make use of this time. Get signed up with ProCabby, get ready, and be prepared for when you go back to work. And what that involved was me doing a lot of networking online, and the power of social media is a great thing. I met some drivers in Spain and they loved the idea. And we basically recruited our full pool of drivers in Barcelona in a week's time through COVID, which was really fantastic for us. So we have a trickling of drivers, right? And then that kind of spun out a bit, and some drivers in the south of Spain, in Sevilla, found out as well. And so we have some drivers we're recruiting there, and some other drivers in different parts of Europe too. So we are a global platform in the sense that basically we can onboard drivers from anywhere across the globe. During the development process, that was a tricky piece, but we wanted to be sure that if a driver came to us from anywhere in the world, we would be able to add the city and have them onboarded in 24 to 48 hours. And that's what we've done. So we, with the world we're in now, there really are no borders. So that's what's been really great about being in the tech space and being an app like ProCabby.
Awesome. This is amazing. I love it. So let's talk about if you can remember a time starting out or in your business when you had a hello moment.
There's definitely been a few. I would say one of the biggest hello moments I've had in the last year, besides the whole Barcelona piece, because that was like just a dream come true. I actually haven't been to Spain yet, but it's since I was 16 years old, because I always danced growing up. I was always really fascinated with flamenco dancing, which is based out of Spain. So it was just funny that happened. And that's still a dream, like bucket list dream of mine, to go to Spain and to study flamenco dancing. So that's kind of a personal side note, but there was that. But I think one of the other big hello moments for me in the last while was the first podcast that I was interviewed on. So this is actually my second podcast opportunity. Thank you so much. And the first one, I think it was through that interview. And even before we had the podcast interview, I spoke with the host beforehand. And I think just there were some things that we talked about. It wasn't any one specific thing, but it was just the response and the support she gave me just really resonated and made me feel like, I think that we do have something here. I think we are doing something good. I mean, I've been so fortunate that not just her and yourself, but a lot of people in women in business particularly have been super encouraging and supportive of this initiative. And that, I think, is one of the biggest hello moments to me, because I have definitely suffered from, the imposter syndrome that we hear about. And the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. And that's another conversation perhaps, but the mental stamina piece behind being an entrepreneur is huge, but I don't think it's talked about that much. We're in this hustle, hustle, hustle culture, and I understand that, but I think that there also has to be some more education done about the mental piece there, because you really can get burnt out, and we're human beings and we all need respite. And I don't think that we should maybe be shamed for taking a break, right? So yeah, there's a lot there, and I've done a talk about that, actually, the successes and failures that I've experienced in entrepreneurship, but also the mental stamina piece and what that looks like. So I'd be happy to talk about that maybe another time too. But yeah, but that's all intertwined. And I think I'm just so grateful for, a tribe of women in business that I've been fortunate enough to connect with, because I know the entrepreneurial journey from experience can be kind of lonely, and so with the technology world we're in, like you and I were ocean apart. We're like, a 5-hour plane ride from each other, but it's like we're in each other's living room. So that's been really great to find support from all over the globe, actually.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with you so much about the entrepreneurial space and the hustle of it and the mindset of it as well. And, I was thinking the difference between us women and the man in entrepreneurship. With the men, is always a hustle, 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 hustle. And that's what they teach. And us women, we're trying to basically follow that speed. And not to say that some women out there can or cannot do it, but we're trying to follow that speed because they set the precedence about the hustle mentality.
Yeah.
But it's really killing us. They can do it. They can do it. And they really shouldn't, to be honest with you. But that's a whole nother, realm. But for us,
exactly,
it needs to be at a pace where, we can understand it and we can get fulfillment out of it as well. But with guys, their fulfillment is that hustle mode, like being in that, that go, 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 go. And if you're not doing this, 20 hours straight, then you're not really a hustler. And it's like, wait a minute, I need a nap. I need to put some clothes in the dryer.
That's right. I think that I hear exactly what you're saying, and I agree 100%. And I also think there's a personality piece there too. Some people are like that, right? There are those people and they thrive in that. But I like to, I'm trying to find my balance. It's not always balanced, but I'm trying. And I think we can agree about that. I think that women definitely bring a special magic touch to the business world, right? Yeah. And they can get it done too. And just because maybe, like you said, you don't hustle 20 hours a day doesn't mean that you're not going to find your success.
Yes. Yeah, that's the truth. Yes. Yeah, we definitely need to talk more about this. So I would love to have you back on, or we can set up some sort of mastermind to help with our mind, entrepreneurial mind for women.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Hey there, C.S. Dorsey here. We thrive on awesome feedback from our listeners because you make the show. Now, I would like to ask you to take a moment to comment, share, give a rating, or share your hello moment. Once you've done that, take a snapshot of the review and tag me on Instagram at csdorsey_hello. I cannot wait to hear from you. So let's talk about how you became a woman in tech and the inspiration behind ProCabby.
I'd love to share that. So just to start off point blank, throw it out there, I sort of became a woman in tech by accident. I'll be just fully honest with you. I don't originally come from the tech space in the sense that my education is not in IT. I have a degree in psychology, and then I actually have a diploma in small and medium enterprise management. So essentially business management and entrepreneurship. And for me, I have a real passion for marketing and stuff like that. It was sort of inspired ProCabby by a personal story. So my partner and I actually have a close family member who's a taxi driver, and he's an immigrant, like a lot of cab drivers are. He came to Canada, over 30 years ago, and he came from the financial sector. But unfortunately, like a lot of people that end up in that space, he wasn't able to work in his industry. He would have had to re-educate and go back to school. Well, he was trying to support a family of 4 or 5, sorry. And so it wasn't an option. And so he tried different jobs. And at the end of the day, he really loved the autonomy and the independence that came with being a taxi driver. But even beyond that, he bought his taxi medallion or plate. And the idea was, once upon a time, him and many people had the notion, at the end of my career, I either sell off the plate, which will be a retirement fund, or I'll give it to someone in the family. That's typically what happens. Well, taxi drivers in Canada and the US do not have a retirement fund, right? So the reality is they rely on the sale of that medallion, and the sale of that medallion in its heyday. New York is obviously at the top of the ladder, but in the prime, those medallions there were worth $1 million. And in Ottawa, for example, in the heyday, it was probably upwards of 300,000 Canadian. So that's a nice little nest egg to take away and say, I'm going to have a nice retirement. Now, here, you would be lucky to get $5,000. And you actually see in many instances where drivers can't afford to work, meaning their monthly expenses with their stand rent to their companies and the high insurance rates and their licensing, they can barely afford to pay that, but they can't really afford to not be working. So what you have is a lot of drivers who are seniors now, still working in the taxi industry and basically not making ends meet for themselves and their family. So this is what happened with this family member. He is a senior citizen now, wants to retire, unfortunately cannot afford to. And that really was the driving force behind ProCabby. It was, okay, there's got to be a solution here. Not to mention the fact that, I have a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. I also am a purveyor of taxis. So I'll throw it out there. Nothing against ride sharing. I personally don't use ride sharing. I've always used taxis, but I love the technology that comes with ride sharing. So I thought there's got to be something where we're kind of marrying the best of the old with the best of the new, but for the professional driving space. And so it really was that family member that was the inspo. But then doing research before we started building the app, we realized this is not just a North American issue. This is a global problem in the industry. So because ride sharing has, made its way across the globe, in a lot of instances, unfortunately, the taxi space hasn't kept up with the innovation. So that's another piece of this puzzle that, I sometimes get questioned, well, there's these taxi apps, right? There's regionally based taxi apps in a lot of cities, and no disrespect to those applications, but they don't work the same way that the ride sharing or the ProCabby model does, where you're getting the driver that's in the closest proximity to you. In those cases, they're actually using a little bit of an archaic system where they're actually going back through dispatch. So it can still take quite a while for a passenger to get a ride, and you may not get the closest driver in those cases. And, we've tried a lot of those apps. And again, no disrespect, but sometimes the technology isn't really up to speed. Sometimes they crash, had problems paying through the app. So there's a lot that we've learned, that there's a lot that goes into building this kind of thing. So we did build the app from the ground up. I'm not the tech guru, my partner is, but for me, I'm, the founder of the company. I'm the founder of the company, but also the head of marketing. So marketing is a big passion for me, and I love communications, and I've become super passionate about this and really trying to help the drivers. And that's where we are today, is really trying to get them some skin back in the game. Like I think I said before, give them a fighting chance. And ProCabby's not meant to be a standalone solution. It's not, okay, you download ProCabby, away you go, and now you're earning a decent living. That's just not realistic, right? We're building a company too. So it's meant to be used in conjunction with their street hails, their dispatching company, if they have one, private calls, because a lot of taxi drivers have private clients. And then if they do have another app that they like using, use that as well. We're really a supplementary income tool at this time.
I love it. I really do. I'm just like, wow.
I'm sorry, I can go on and on. I'm just talking your ear off about this.
It's okay. It's okay. I love it because, as you were talking, I was thinking about, before the pandemic hit and everything, I was thinking about Berkeley here in the Bay Area and downtown Berkeley where my mom works. And I would see, it used to be a time where, taxi drivers, it would be only like one park next to the bar station. And then you'll be lucky if you can get that one. But I see them all like lined up and they're just waiting.
Yeah.
And they're talking to each other and they're just sitting there waiting. And I'm like, this is not a taxi. But I was like Uber and Lyft.
Yeah. The reality is ride sharing, we can't deny, is a big contributor to that landscape. There's also the fact of lack of innovation in the industry, like I mentioned, right? So I think it's a lot of that. And people, the reality is, I don't know about you, I like apps where I can click that button. I can see when my driver's on the way to me, and I can pay through the app if I want that. That's the way of the future. And then we have COVID mixed into everything, which to me now cashless is a huge piece of the puzzle. So I know I said we do take cash as well, but obviously during this time, the credit card through the app, touchless, nobody's interacting or touching each other, is super crucial. And so we do have the credit card option there.
That's good. That's really good. Wow. Yeah. So everyone who's listening, I downloaded my app already. So I can't wait to definitely utilize it. I think it's really awesome. I do. Like I stated before, I think I tried Uber. I tried pressing the button to see if anybody was going to come pick me up. And I seen the little cars driving around in the little map. And I was like, well, who's coming to get us? Who's coming to get us? And they kept on sending out like an alert. And I was like, is somebody going to pick this up? And I almost got into an actual Uber that pulled up. And I was like, Mom, I think it's our Uber. And I was like, hi, are you our Uber? And she's like, no. I was like, oh, God. No. Let's just walk. And that kind of deterred me away from actually using Uber,
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. We have to be really careful about safety and security. So just to let you know, when a driver accepts fare or call through ProCabby, you as the passenger will be notified such and such a driver's on the way. You'll see a little picture of them, their first name. We try to keep things very secure for the drivers and the passengers' data. That's a super big priority to us, is IT security. But having said that, you will have the option to call the driver when they're on the way and stuff like that. You'll be able to see them. And then the driver has to say, if you're like, I live in an apartment building. So for me, I need to know when the driver's there. So they actually click that they're at the location waiting for the passenger to enter. So I think those things are really important, especially in this day and age, to have that safety piece in place.
Definitely. I love it so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I could just talk about this for hours. I know we don't have hours, but I'm just saying.
Do you have any advice for our listeners out there who, like someone like myself, who's actually thinking about like maybe want to develop something to solve a problem like you did? So do you have any advice for our listeners out there on, developing some sort of, piece like this or an app to help solve a problem?
That's a really good question. I think the first thing I would say is do your homework. So, you don't have to be the only one out there. I think sometimes there's a misconception in business that, if somebody else is doing it, you can't do it. I don't think that that's true at all. But I do think it's super crucial to do your homework, to know what's out there, know what is out there, know in your mind what your vision is. And then you'll find usually a midway point of how you're going to solve the problem, because typically you will be able to bring something to market that's not there. So even if you have a similar platform, like we have a similar platform to ride sharing, but we have some unique features that I didn't even get into at this point, but that differentiate us, right? Like, for example, we don't have any surge pricing. We never charge surging. So for us, our pricing is different in every city because the rates in every city are different, but they're consistent at all times in that jurisdiction. That's just an example. Another example for us is our private rating system. So with some ride sharing, it's a public rating. With ProCabby, it's private. But my point of that is that it's okay to do something. You don't always need to reinvent the wheel, but when you're really educated about what's out there, you can best come out with a product that maybe will become the front runner at the end of the day because you really know this space. I think the other thing is I've learned a lot of hard lessons through this ProCabby development process. And I think being in contact and in touch with future users or future clients is really important as well. So that's a marketing research piece. But I would say never to underestimate that. And even to go out there, now we know, especially in the tech world, having minimum viable product, an MVP, is a really great way to get an idea of what you want to build, just kind of that skeleton, show it to some of your possible customers or future customers and get their feedback before you go and spend high six figures or more to build something. Because the reality is you may be quoted this and that from different app developing companies and stuff like that, but always plan to spend a bit more, I would say, is another piece of advice. We're super lucky that we were able to build in-house. So we have our head of IT who led our team of developers. But, to be honest with you and just throw it out there, we had to fire the first complete team because they were not delivering. So I guess another piece of advice would be do your homework on those companies, but also interview more than you think you need to. In some business spaces, we maybe go, okay, we look at 3. I would say look at 10 kind of thing, really, really get your idea out there. And I guess the last thing would be is price shouldn't always be the priority. So I know it can be really expensive, but you pay for what you get, right? So I think that would be just some good little pieces, nuggets, hopefully that would be helpful. Did that answer that question?
Yes, that was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because it's not often that we actually get the details behind the scenes or how to go about it. Of course, me seeing the finished product, I'm like, ooh, this is nice. But you don't know exactly what went on or the behind the
That's right.
piece, the things leading up to developing something. I mean, oftentimes,
Yeah.
how many times do you hear that people say, I have an idea and I want to do this, and they can see the final product of it, but it's like that down the hill and that climb, you can see at the top of the peak, but you
That's
don't know all the
great.
rocks and them caves and the bats and everything you have to walk through.
Oh dear, you're speaking my language. I 100% agree. I think a lot of times people also really glorify that entrepreneurial process, right? So they see, oh, this person, like you said, they have a dream, they have a vision, and then they see the finished product. What goes on in between is really going to, I think, set apart whether or not it's going to be a success, right? And, I'll just say from personal experience, many a times, the tears, the blood, literally just going, how can we do this, right? But I think one thing that came to me through this, and I guess maybe after this, was I think it's really important that your desire to achieve should be greater than your desire for everyone to see your vision. So to me, that means, right, in your heart of hearts, what that vision is. You have to work on keeping that vision there. And that vision may change over time, but that drive to see that great vision has to be greater than anything else. I think a lot of times we look for external validation and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if you know what you want to build, nothing really can stop you. It's not going to be easy, but if you have that drive and you know where you want to go, don't let anything get in your way, because it will be so worth it when you have that finished product in hand.
I love it. Yes, yes. You're speaking to me as well. I know, right?
You can't see it through audio.
I love it so much. Oh my gosh, I love it. You're definitely going to have to send me that quote that you just quoted.
Oh, for sure. Yes. I absolutely will.
I love that. Yeah. So I think you let me know that you have a promo code for our listeners out there for downloading the app.
I do. So just want to preface this with, please be patient, listeners. If you go on to ProCabby and you can't get a ride right away, that just means that we just don't have as many drivers yet in that area, but that we're working on it. But the promo code, it's good for life. Basically, it's for 15% off your rides with ProCabby, and it is PC-CS Dorsey -15. So that's PC-CS Dorsey -15.
Awesome. And we're going to link the promo code into the show notes. So all you have to do is just copy and paste.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I can't wait to use it. I'm like, look, I was on my phone and I was like, yay. Cause I'm not knocking Uber or Lyft or anything, but I grew up, in riding taxis if we needed to, so
right.
Yeah, I am a great component of it. And I, definitely do support the taxi industry because they were there when we didn't have a car, back in the day, so.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
And you're amongst millions of people in that position, right? In a lot of cities, people don't have a car. They just don't. And they have to rely on public transit. And taxis are a part of public transit, technically. So, no, I really appreciate your support and your kind words and sharing this, having me share a bit of this story. That means a lot to me. So thank you again.
Of course. And where can everyone find you?
Yeah, so I'm all over social myself. I'm Andrea Chase on LinkedIn and Andrea RS Chase on Facebook. But ProCabby has our Instagram profile, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. We have it all. But our favorite is Instagram for ProCabby. That's where we meet the majority of drivers from across the globe. We found that's been sort of our secret spot, I would say. But if you are on Facebook and you're really interested in this topic, we actually do have a private Facebook group that if you are interested, just shoot me a message and I would love to have you join that group. And it's mostly talking about ProCabby, but also the taxi industry and any news about ride sharing in the space.
Awesome. Yes, we would definitely link those up in the show notes. So all they have to do is just click right away. Wow. Andrea, I'm so happy. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Candace. It was so great to connect with you. And I love your energy too. I think we have a lot in common and I look forward to staying in touch.